was a hammering if you could ever call one in an ODI. South Africa have beaten India. Bat first, bat second, doesn't matter. The top five got runs, set up with an opening partnership of 132, which has laid the foundation for a 7-wicket win and a 2-0 unassailable series lead in this 3-match ODI series. Let's get Daryll, Cullinan and Sanjay Manjrekar to look back at it, answer some questions on why it was so easy for South Africa in a chase that was similar to the score that India had just a couple of days ago at the same venue. Is it about the bowling? Is it about the batting? Let's go to Daryll Cullinan first up, who has the pleasure of talking about what's a mighty impressive South African one-day unit now, Daryll. They flexed some serious muscle today.
Well, we saw in the first one-day international they won, and looking back now, they cruised to that win and they cruised again today. But, this puts behind a lot of thoughts or doubts. But I think overall they just played better basics in terms of one-day cricket, partnerships, etc. And surprisingly, South Africa trumped India in the spin department, which I think must be the first time ever. I think besides one or two batting partnerships, they were more effective, and we expected so much more from the Indian spinners.
I'm amazed that it was so easy for South Africa, Sanjay. We thought these tosses were important. We saw India lose their way in a similar sort of chase 2 days ago. Why was tonight so different for South Africa?
We said at the halfway stage that India is the team that's likely to win. The toss was important. I think there were enough runs on the board. India could have done better. Most of their batters failed, and thanks to Pant and Shardul later, they had some runs on the board. Rahul contributed. But I thought the target was not an easy one. If I have to just say one thing about this particular defeat and the performance of the Indian team, considering the kind of surfaces that you saw in the first couple of one-days, this team, the personnel, and even in the squad, when you look at it, a team that didn't have the players suited to exploit these conditions. And in the end, I think India paid the price for that.
Why don't you extend on Daryll's point first up? Because it does look like, if you are to accept that the batters didn't necessarily get a below par score, they got a decent score today, that India's bowlers have let them down today. And Daryll makes the point, in all these years, he's seeing South Africa's spinners outbowl that of India's. How would you assess India's spinners and their performance, Sanjay?
See, Ashwin, I've been maintaining right from the start of the series, had sneaked back into India's white ball plans for no reason. It isn't that he's made a strong claim for a comeback, but somehow, I think the thinking has changed, has come back into the plans. Hopefully now they'll realize that he's not an impact spinner that India needs. India need to go back to that time when they used to get wickets in the middle. So this spin, attack that India has is not their best. And Ashwin has a long-standing track record of that. But Chahal, who has been a successful Indian white ball spinner, getting wickets in the middle. But we've seen signs with Chahal as well that his powers may be waning off late. So you had these two spinners, and that's it. And there wasn't the option of the third. And the one in the squad also is a Jayant Yadav, who I was pushing for. If you're playing Ashwin as the off spinner, might as well have Jayant Yadav, who's not going to be too different from what Ashwin does in white ball cricket. Plus, you have the batting as well. So, yes, the Indian spin attack for this particular trip isn't, I would say, ideal or what India should be going long term.
Daryll, if you were to compare, you made the point, why is it that the combination of Shamsi and Keshav Maharaj seem to just have more about them, more impact, more penetration, even if they were bowling first today, than Ashwin and Chahal, who have a lot of experience in white ball cricket between them?
Well, Shamsi turned the ball, and at crucial moments he got wickets. Maharaj, he was a bit, but by and large, and he got Kohli out today. The ball stopped on it. I thought it was a loose sort of shot. But I can't say that Indian spinners bowled brilliantly well, and South Africa bowled even more brilliantly. It's not that I've seen Shamsi or Maharaj suddenly become far better bowlers. I think it was in contrast to the level of performance. I had such high expectations. Let's go back to 2018. We were at every game, Ronnie. The way that Yadav, Kuldeep and Chahal just wrapped South Africa up was quite stunning. Yes. Maybe under that expectation, I expected more. But both him and Ashwin looked off the pace. But, India have a depth of spinners, I guess, like they always have had. And all our attention and teams' attentions now with 15, 20 games out, India will probably have much more in terms of the World Cup. Rather know now And I anticipate, if I believe, which I do think Rahul Dravid's a smart guy, you now got to cut your losses, look at who's the best. You can't be picking T20 players for ODI cricket. You can't be picking ODI form or reputation for Test cricket. And maybe that's where India, the lines have become blurred, because it's been interesting for me listening. I mean, Sanjay, and you know Indian cricket far more in depth than I do. When there is a lot of speculation, then there's generally also a lot of speculation in the team or around the team, selectors and the coach, who should he or not play. And you saw Rohit, what a big impact one key player makes to your batting order. But I just sense they neither here nor there in terms of what it is, what they need, and where. But perhaps they feel these guys will bowl differently come the subcontinent. But you need to start now working it out. But I think Ashwin's days, and I think Chahal was not a threat at all. It was not a period where he looked like he could even hold South Africa. Neither did Ashwin.
Yes,
Can I
Sanjay.
make a quick, to answer your point, your question precisely about what was the difference between the two spinners from either side today? I'm including Markram in that as well. I keep talking about strength. Strength is something that is, you see with batters, it's about power. You see the strength in a batter with the way he hits the ball out of the ground. With spinners, you see how quickly they're able to get the ball to fizz off the pitch. So slow in the air, fizz off the pitch. And you thought Maharaj, Makram, and Shamsi had more strength in their spin bowling as compared to Ashwin or Chahal. Chahal, I think, has to now start looking at as to why the ball isn't fizzing off the pitch as much. Ashwin has always been somebody who's hugely reliant on the surfaces that he gets to bowl in. Plus his mindset. I mean, today was a great example of a beautiful delivery to Quinton de Kock, miss stumping, and the next ball is a quick delivery into the pad that swept for four. So here's a bowler who doesn't give himself the best chance to get wickets, bowls the odd ball to get a wicket, but mostly looking at economy. But the difference between spinners from South Africa and the Indian spinner that we saw in the series is they were looking for wickets and had a little more fizz of the pitch than the Indian spinners.
Okay, in which case, I guess to just close this conversation on India's spinners, Sanjay, I wonder if you'd like to just draw a brief roadmap. I know it's not the end of the series, but the series is lost now. On who are the kind of spinners that India ought to invest in, who perhaps tick more boxes?
I think it's time now to go back to Kuldeep Yadav. I've always been his supporter. I can understand why he's not your first option in T20 cricket, especially on small grounds. But I think there is a place for Kuldeep Yadav in 50 overs cricket, especially on pitches like this. I mean, he would have been perhaps a game changer, at least a tempting option, who will get you 3-4 wickets. He's a guy who has that kind of record of running through sides. So India need to go back to a proper wrist spinner who will get the ball to turn on these pitches. So Kuldeep Yadav immediately, I think, will come back into reckoning. We've seen Ashwin over the years. We've seen Ashwin in this series. Nothing much has changed. So I doubt anyone is going to keep investing in Ashwin. Chahal will be under the scanner. I think they'll have to look back at Rahul Chahar, who I thought India should have backed a little more. So those are the kind of spinners that India will go back to. Jadeja is an option that they'll have, but really strong sort of, proper classical wrist spinners who change the game in the middle.
All right. Now, there'll be some spinners watching this and thinking you're really going hard at us. It's not like our seamers are running through sides or asking questions of the batters. So let's get into that conversation. It did seem like there were more moments of wicket-taking ability, or rather there was more wicket-taking ability shown by South Africa's seamers, Daryll, in the chase last time round than by India's today. We didn't quite see that sort of penetration from the seamers as well. How do you analyze how India's seamers have bowled? Obviously, Bumrah being slightly better than the others.
Well, Kumar is going to be a concern. I know Sanjay pointed out that he wouldn't have selected him. I again remember him from some time ago. Yes, we haven't seen a lot of swing, but his ability to run in, and then he bowled today with a keeper up. He tried to change the pace, but that's a particular skill. It's all about the arm speed, and you just felt that he just pushed a few. That shot that Markram had just got in, hit him over cover for a boundary was far too easy. But look, the workload has been on Bumrah. I think he was a bit off it today. but that's to be expected. Tucker, is he really going to be a sort of fourth reliable seamer in these sorts of conditions? You just don't know what you're going to get on the day, I think, in terms of can he bowl under pressure, bowl one side of the wicket. He's generally a wicket taker. But I think by and large, that's also another area that you have to say they weren't really seamer-friendly sort of wickets. But again, you just felt the runs came too easy. But then they ran into the cock. Let's also mention that. And when he's batting the way that he is, I don't think there's an attack that can contain him. I've never understood why bowlers, generally teams go over the wicket to him. When he struggled, his bowlers have started around the wicket. Ideally, you want a left arm or two, which doesn't always come along. But particularly a guy like Bumrah, who has that ability to straighten the ball on him. That's the only time I've really seen him be iffish. He doesn't quite get that foot there, offers the chance of a neck off, or he'll try hit you across the line. But if you're going to come over and look to hit middle and off, he just gets on the off stump, and I tell you what, you'll be bowling for a few days at him. So let's in their defense, they ran into him. But again, just watching it, I felt that was similar to what I've sensed the whole series. They were just loose, kind of here and there, never quite ever for consistent periods where they should be.
They had the runs today, Sanjay, to play with. You have to answer those questions too now, don't you? What about Bhuvaneshwar Kumar? Is he done? Should India persist with him any longer? I know you've already said they should have played with Deepak Chahar ahead, but after what you've seen today, is that even further solidified the view on Bhuvaneshwar Kumar?
See, there was a glimmer of hope when he made a comeback after injury. I think it was, we were talking on our group, maybe against England at home.
Yes.
And you felt, you saw the best of Bumrah. And I remember talking excitedly here about how Bhuvaneshwar Kumar, rather, is looking so good. But since then, there are, again, signs that Bhuvaneshwar Kumar is struggling to be at the peak of his, prowess. And again, I'm talking about strength and fitness. Clearly, he's lost a bit of pace. The swing has gone. And this is a guy who is far below his prime. And that was what the issue was with the Indian bowling. You have Chahal, who's not at his peak. You've got Bhuvaneshwar Kumar, who seems to be really fading away quickly. Ashwin, who's never been an exceptional wide ball bowler. Shardul Thakur as well. He's just trying to find his feet in 50 overs cricket. So you're left with only Bumrah, who looked pretty good and some quality there. So in the end, the bowling getting exposed. And I think a lot of that has to do with the kind of team India has picked in this series. And I've said this start of the series, not because India have lost the one-day series. I mean, it was just beyond me that Bhuvaneshwar Kumar, after his recent performances, was still selected ahead of certain other people who are clearly more at the peak of their skills and form.
Yeah, I mean, India didn't play a lot of ODI cricket in 2021, just that series against England, and then you could call it the second string team that went to Sri Lanka. But you did have the likes of Deepak Chahar and Prasidh Krishna picking up Player of the Match awards in the limited opportunities that they get. Many months later, they're back to the senior pros. So it's something that perhaps have to revisit as we look ahead to the third ODI. But let's not just make this all about India and what's wrong with them. Let's spend some time on South Africa, who get more and more pieces of the puzzle coming together, Daryll. Janeman Malan's got some runs here. Quinton de Kock seems to have put whatever little troubles aside after the test series. This was the best of de Kock, so it's nice to see that that's still there on offer. And even the attitude with which Babuma and co batted, there was something that they wanted to just lay down, a message almost in the manner in which they wanted to chase this target. No half measures.
Well, I think from the first one-day international, you can even go back to the two test matches that they won, that you could sense that was a difference between the two sides, that South Africa particularly were hungry, they particularly wanted to win, and they had a point to prove. And they were harder in the big moments. They capitalized on good partnerships. And then when it came to today, finishing the match off, de Kock started well. I'm very, very pleased to see de Kock play the way that he did. Leaving the test arena, I really hope that it is de Kock coming into one-day cricket where he'll be fresh, excited, always keen to play. And I think this is the type of cricket that he wants to play, freed up from the greater responsibilities, the stresses of test cricket. Not that he couldn't handle it. I think this type of cricket, a lot of T20 cricket kind of suits him. And he's a massive player. If you look at South Africa the last 2-3 years, when de Kock has scored well up front, they generally went on to win the match or get pretty close to winning it. We saw Malan. Now, Malan's a very impressive player. And he has worked on his game, particularly against the slower bowlers. But one thing, even you see with him in domestic cricket, when he gets in, this is why I like him. He gets big scores. He goes on and he converts. He's quite a mechanical sort of player, but he's a smart player as well. Bavuma, after the first heroics, he, you just knew perhaps he wasn't quite going to be there today. But I enjoyed Markram. I thought Markram played a little good knock, but I can't understand why he wanted to he was trying to get out when he got to about 5:30. You just haven't got a run since who knows when, and here you are cruising to a beautiful 45 not out, and he tries his best to get out. So maybe I think the coach will have a word with him there, but you felt he played with a bit of freedom. And then the spinners, I think probably what caught India was no one would have called this sort of wicket. Had this been at home, India would have played 3 spinners. There's absolutely no doubt about it. So perhaps they were caught unawares because no one would have called this sort of pitch over here. But, South Africa dropped 4 catches again. When I say again, they've been prone to being at times rather untidy in the field. So that's an area that to me always troubles me a little bit. But, full credit to them. It has not been an easy time. We spoke of the Test series and now having won the series. It's been a very troublesome, and we've got bigger trouble brewing now in South African cricket. So, this does a lot for everyone. But I take my hat off to them. They stuck well as a team. No superstars. They spoke about it. But all round, they just played the important parts, excellent basics. So I salute them and say, well done. This was a tough Indian side to beat. I think off the boil, but nevertheless, you won and you did it professionally, which is very impressive.
All right, then. We leave it here. There's a chat that I'd like to have about Virat Kohli, but on a day like this, it seems like the conversation will be more about the bowlers. What I'll do is, Sanjay Manjrekar and Daryll Cullinan, I'll save a Virat Kohli chat quite nicely for the pre-show of the third ODI, because we'll be short, won't we, on content for that day to keep our viewers engaged. So why don't you join us for that third ODI? And we'll just talk about what's gone wrong with Virat Kohli after a nice little 50. Very rare to see him play a loose shot or not. So maybe that's a conversation to have. And hopefully there'll be some changes as the action moves to Cape Town on Sunday. So we'll get Sanjay and Daryll's thoughts on that. Gentlemen, thank you very much. Always a pleasure to hear your thoughts. Yeah. Well done to South Africa then. Excellent all-round performance. The better team in the first 2 ODIs at PAL. Deservingly, they take this series lead. We'll, of course, have plenty to talk about as some changes can be expected from the Indian side, maybe even the South African. So do join us for ESPN Cricket for Match Day on Sunday. Till then, bye-bye.